So this is our South Florida Tech Podcast, a weekly show where we bring you the awesome, innovative people building our South Florida tech community. And each week we'll introduce to you one of the Sunshine State's top tech leaders, learn a little bit about who they are, what they do, and have some fun conversation along the way. Our podcast is presented by Tech Hub South Florida, a nonprofit dedicated to building South Florida's tech hub. And I'm your co-host, Nikki Cabus, the interim CEO at South Florida Tech Hub. And our co-host, Joanna Mikkola, is the CEO and co-founder of Wyncode Academy, now Brainstation.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here. Yes, and super excited about now being Brainstation, global leader in digital skills training. So if anyone out there is looking for awesome tech talent, we are here to support you.
Awesome. Yes. And I just realized that I actually said it backwards this morning because we just had our new announcement that we merged with Tech Lauderdale, and now our name is actually South Florida Tech Hub. So I did it backwards. So a little quick message here for our sponsors. Emerge Americas is one of our sponsors of our podcast. And each year, global enterprises, disruptive technology, and elite startups are highlighted at Emerge's premier tech event, Connecting the Americas. The event is held in Miami Beach, which has to date hosted organizations from over 40 countries and featured over 250 speakers from around the world. Emerge Americas is transforming South Florida's tech hub by connecting entrepreneurs, investors, and leading business executives and decision makers. So I would like to go ahead and get started by introducing Maria Russo as our guest this morning. Maria Russo is the Director of Community for Florida Funders, which is a hybrid venture capital fund and angel investor network investing in early stage startups with the goal of transforming Florida from the Sunshine State to the startup state. She also serves as the executive director of Refresh Miami, which is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting and growing South Florida's tech and startup community, and is also the founder of Women in Miami Tech, a group dedicated to supporting and advancing women in technology, and also happens to co-host the Miami Tech podcast, a weekly podcast covering the latest news and events happening in Miami Tech. So welcome, Maria. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
Of course, of course. I'm really happy again. I think this is the second time when we've had an all-female podcast this morning. So I'm happy to do that again this morning with you. Always exciting when we can showcase women in startups and technology.
Agreed.
Yes. So to get us started, Maria, I know Joanna and I both know who you are, but for anybody that doesn't, can you tell us just a little bit about who is Maria? Like, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's a very deep question.
Yes.
Born and raised in the county of Dade, as we like to say. So born in Miami to Puerto Rican parents. My mom would be very upset if I didn't mention that. Kind of grew up here, went away twice for school, and then have been back about 9 years. As you heard from my bio, very passionate about the helping support and grow the tech and startup ecosystem here, and animal lover. So if you ever find me not doing anything with tech or startups, it's because I bought a farm out in Homestead and I'm living out the rest of my days surrounded by all kinds of animals.
I love that.
Nice.
My what do you want to be when you grow up used to be an owner of a farm filled with dogs. So we're
that's so cute. See, mine was zookeeper when I was younger. I was going to say, if you ever need animals, you can come to my house. I've got 3 cats, 2 dogs, a couple birds. You can come over here and borrow them anytime.
You might hear barking in my background soon. So awesome. So much fun stuff to talk about, Maria. It's an honor to have you here. And it's been also super fun being on your podcast, which everyone should also check out. It's super fun and very informative. But you're now Director of Community for Florida Funders, which is amazing. I think that's an incredible role for you, and they're very lucky to have you. Can you share a little bit about what does Director of Community, what does that role entail? What's kind of the mission that you're on for South Florida?
Yeah. So as kind of Nikki mentioned in the bio, it's the whole mission of Florida Funders is to transform Florida from the Sunshine State to the startup state. And so as Director of Community, my role is really kind of growing the brand, particularly in South Florida, building relationships with different folks in the ecosystem, whether that be founders, accelerators, co-investors, other venture capital funds, and really finding great startups for us to invest in. So it's a really fun job, and it just involves me kind of talking a lot to different people and building relationships and being a resource and adding value to people in the ecosystem.
Well, it sounds perfect. It sounds like obviously stuff you're all good at.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and you had mentioned some of the startups. I know that we've got a few of them that are right here in the portfolio for Florida funders. So I know there's ones that I recognized immediately when looking at the portfolio, like Secveris and HealthSnap, and now of course Lula. Can you talk a little bit about, like, prior to investing, what does Florida funders look for in some of these startups?
Sure. So of course, we kind of look at things like, what is the problem they're solving? What's the size of the market? Is it big enough for a fund to get a return, the large returns that are required from a venture capital fund? But more than anything, when you're kind of early, you're investing this early, it's really about the team and kind of why are they the right fit to tackle this problem? Are they kind of relentless? So a perfect example is Lula. The team at Florida Funders invested in them when they were a car sharing business for college students. And so that when kind of the pandemic hit and college campuses shut down, they were kind of left to figure out, like, what do we do now? And they had identified a really interesting insight in the insurance space, and they pivoted. And I think they've said back when it was car sharing service, I think the number is like they were declined by over 500 other investors, and yet they persisted. And so we know that it's being an entrepreneur is a really hard road. And so you're going to have to be able to be told no and kind of persevere. So a lot of it comes back down to the team. And, do we have a gut feeling that they're going to really, not stop, not let anything get in their way?
That's awesome. Awesome. I also love seeing a few industry partners on that list hiring from our program, which is great.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're saying too,
very
is they
supportive.
invest a lot in the person, not just the company, right? As you're looking really at the founders themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome. So you said that you've been back now for 9 years, and I don't know exactly the official start off point for when you jumped into the startup tech innovation scene, but it feels that you have been in it for a very long time and doing a lot of really important roles, from, of course, Refresh Miami, UM's Launchpad, the Venture City, now Florida Funders. So you have a really unique perspective because I bet you don't have time to reflect all the time on where it was and where it's going and where it is right now. But I would love to hear, like, your perspective on how things have evolved since you first jumped in and from all of the amazing roles that you've had.
Yeah, I think especially, you guys have probably experienced this too. Right now, this moment feels like really surreal. And so I officially took over. I've kind of spent the first 10 years of my career working at startups. And then 6 years ago, had the opportunity to take over running Refresh, which is kind of really when I moved into this more entrepreneurial support role. And so it has been interesting to get the perspective from different types of lenses in the ecosystem. So from the nonprofit angle, the university angle, the accelerator and venture capital fund angle. And so I think what I've seen and as an ecosystem, we've continued to mature, and just like, startups in general mature. And it's been interesting. I think we've been getting better about collaborating. And I think we've just kind of come into our own and kind of owned Miami. And it's kind of like as I've interviewed different founders among the years, and kind of listening to them. And so, back when funding wasn't as readily available as it is now, people just hustled and they figured it out and they found a way. And so it's been awesome to see kind of that everybody persevere and everybody telling us as an ecosystem that we couldn't be taken seriously. And now kind of coming into this moment where finally, people are realizing what we've been kind of saying for a very long time. So it's really amazing time to be in the South Florida tech community.
Yeah, it's really hashtag Miami Tech and how can I help, right? It's really been a pretty cool moment, which I know we're all working very hard to turn into a movement and something that's long lasting. And on that front, what are your thoughts? Like, the big question is that, maybe I know it's real, I feel it's real, but there's probably people out there who are like, how much of it is hype? How much of it is real? You kind of alluded to a little bit of that, but would love to hear a little bit more on that too.
Yeah, I think if I, in all honesty, when the tweet happened in December, I figured, okay, the holidays will come about and like everybody will go back to their normal. And the news cycles are really quick. I'm like, that'll be like, it'll be a blip and then we'll keep building as we've been over the years and that'll be it. But with every month, it kept compounding and compounding. And then the summer hit where everybody was like, there's going to be this mass exodus. And none of that happened. And so I'm like,
none of it happened. Yeah.
And my favorite thing to do is really talk to the people who moved here and kind of see it through their lens, and seeing them fall in love with the city. And the reasons why they fell in love with the city is not for everything it isn't, it's for everything it already is. And like for everything that we may, like some of the things that we take for granted. And it's been nice. So it makes me feel like there's much more staying power to this. It's not because, just of COVID, or it's not any one reason that drove everybody. It's kind of this compilation of reasons. And so I'm fully bought in now. I think I was in December, I would have been like, I don't I was a little bit more skeptical, but now I'm kind of like, I get it. Like I'm really excited. And I think it definitely is a movement.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see, like, from, some big players like Blackstone, Microsoft opening offices here, to all of the, the world you're immersed in, which is a lot of startup founders and funds and all the thing and capital, what is being deployed down in South Florida. So it's really exciting. On an anecdotal note, in the last 7 days, I've had 4 people approach me, whether it's at Panther, Publix, so in a public realm, to be like, hey, are you from here? What do you do? To which they always say, I just moved here a few months ago. I'm so excited. I run a startup. It's called X. And I'm just like, wow, this is so amazing.
Yeah, the movement has been like crazy to watch. And I think to your point too, Joanna, is that seeing some of the big players move here, I think makes it even that much more real. You were saying now, even Maria, like you're like, okay, I'm bought into all this. I think it's seeing the big players come and we're like, all right, now it's serious because they're bought in too. Yep. But I want to talk a little bit, Maria, about Refresh, because I mean, as you know, at Tech Hub, and we're big supporters of Refresh, and we share all the stories, and I love seeing all the stories come out about like the new and growing startups. So what's going on at Refresh? What's to come? Like, what should we expect? What's some big stuff you guys have working on?
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, big shout out to the news team, because they're really the ones that make this. And like the blog is just, Nancy, who heads it up, is killing it. Riley does an incredible job. We have a team of incredible freelance writers. So I want to really thank them, because they're the ones kind of really telling the stories about what's going on in this ecosystem. So of course, we're going to continue telling those stories. If you're a freelance writer and you're interested in writing for us, let us know. We're also about to launch a new site, which will have a few more bells and whistles, but definitely much more bells and whistles kind of coming down the line. But the whole site kind of really meant to, how can we continue to make sure that entrepreneurs here are aware of the resources available to them, but also, even pre-pandemic, we found that entrepreneurs and technology talent, we're a pretty spread out region, and it's sometimes hard for them to find each other and connect with each other if you're in Kendall and then you're in Fort Lauderdale. So we're trying to look at ways of how do we better connect people digitally and help them as easily as possible find the people, the resources, the groups they should be plugged into, especially with all these new people coming in. How do you easily navigate this ecosystem when there's so much going on? So really excited about that. We are going to kick back off our in-person events soon, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think that's kind of top of mind, especially because this launching a new site, this is the second time we launched a new site while I've been running Refresh, and it's never easy, but it's exciting to do nonetheless.
Yeah,
That's
community
always
connections to resources is
So
important.
please, when it launches, bear with us. There's going to be bugs, things are going to break.
That's awesome. I really, the Refresh in-person events have a really special place in my heart. We launched Wyncode at a Refresh event, and it's so important to have organizations like that give people and companies and other organizations a platform to enter a community into. So really important work you are doing. And thanks so much for that. It is really a great community.
Oh, thank you. That big shout out to Brian who started it. So sometimes people confuse it and think that I started Refresh. I did not start Refresh. Brian Breslin, 15 years ago. He's the OG. He's amazing. Shout out to him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Shout out to Brian for sure. Another organization or community that you've really helped to create and give people kind of a platform to come together is Women in Miami Tech, which is awesome. I'm super looking forward to, we'll say it many times, next Tuesday is the next happy hour. Great way to connect with other women in technology, innovation, and startups. And I'd love to hear the story of that, I remember the early days when it started, and now it's like, it's much, much bigger than it was early days. So you saw the need, you stayed persistent. And I'm wondering what pushed you to create the group? Why the importance for getting women involved? Obviously, you're preaching to the choir here, but we have awesome listeners who want to learn more about that. So would love to hear about that.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you know this. There's a Wyncode connection to this, the reason why I started it. So a few months after I took over Refresh, we kind of partnered on a hackathon between Wyncode, Code for Miami, and Refresh. And it was all women from each organization kind of organizing this hackathon. And throughout the week, there was an experience that one woman had at the hackathon where she kind of was part of an all-male team and they made some disparaging comments to her. And I think that sat with me. And so I think that was in like February. And I think by April, I started thinking, is there not like a good support network for women here to kind of easily connect, share advice, get share opportunities. And so it really started off as a Slack channel where, it was just friends of a friends, like we'd each add one person. And so it grew kind of slowly in the beginning because it was all word of mouth. And then as women, love to chat and to meet each other, everyone's like, we need to get together. So we quickly started kind of a monthly happy hour. And it just was a really amazing supportive group. It was a great excuse for women to kind of meet other incredible women. I think as you get older, it gets harder to kind of meet folks outside of your workplace. And so, we still get a lot of questions around like, well, I'm not really a developer, or I'm just interested in tech. And it really is like an open forum. Like if you're tech curious, whatever it is, just come out and meet some incredible women. But it's been really great to see it grow over the years and for people to kind of find such value out of it and form such bonds and friendships from it. So it's been really exciting. And so, yes, as Joanna said, next Tuesday is the next happy hour. So hopefully you guys can join us.
Awesome. And where do we find that information? If somebody wants to find it out, where do we go?
Yeah, check the Refresh Miami community calendar. It'll be on there.
Excellent. And also want to give a shout out to Bianca Monaco. She was our lead from the Wyncode side on that Hack for Good hackathon. So something that was a troubling scenario turned into something very positive as a result. So that's
yes,
awesome.
And Danielle from Code for Miami. So I love them to death. So yeah. I had never planned a hackathon. I never even
come back to Miami.
I was but no, Bianca, come back to Miami.
Yeah.
I just think it's awesome, Maria, that you took something and let that sit with you and then did something about it, because there's a lot of people that think about things and never take action on them. So I really commend you for doing that and actually like doing something about it.
Oh, thank you.
No, of course. Yeah. I mean, I've been to a few events in Miami over the last 2 weeks, and every single one I've gone to, at least one person has brought up that group. So it's definitely getting out there for sure.
I love to hear that. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to get off work a little bit and learn a little bit more about you. I know in the beginning you had mentioned how much you're an animal lover, and I know we've talked about that every time that we've been together. I just want to ask, like, with you being so busy and having multiple jobs and also starting this women's group, how do you keep a good work-life balance? Like, what are some of the different activities or hobbies or things that you enjoy outside of work?
Good question. I don't know if I excel at this. I think it helps that all my friends are in the tech and startup community. So it's just, I mean, I guess the majority of them. So, when I'm at events, I'm hanging out with my friends anyway, which works out. Um, I used to volunteer at the animal shelter. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that for a while. But yeah, I think I love like hanging by the pool. And so I think, thankfully, like, yeah, I think I don't know if I excel at it, but it helps that we're kind of, it's the same community for me. So my friends
Makes
are
it
part of
easier.
both.
Yeah. So I got it. So tech, animals, and sunshine. That's Maria.
Yes, exactly.
You're in the perfect spot. Although that made me chuckle a little bit because the other day we were meeting an amazing couple, Kyle and Marina, who are also co-founder duo and just moved from Brooklyn a little while ago. And my co-founder, Yuha, asked them, so what do you guys do for hobbies? And we're all kind of staring at each other because we live our hobbies. So it is the community and the startup life and tech, which is awesome. So I feel you. Awesome. So before we have our final question, we love to do a little rapid fire to end off the podcast. So I am going to jump into that. And first of all, I would like to know, what time do you start your day and how do you start your day?
So what time? Usually like at 7:30. Sorry, 1 second. My husband's using the ice maker. 7:30, and it's usually on average. Today I got a little earlier start, but it usually is by being woken up by my dogs, who are trying to get fed. So it usually is me loving on them and then quickly getting them fed because they won't leave me alone if I don't.
That's great. Okay, if you had to choose cats or dogs, although I feel that.
Yeah, I love both, and I've had many of both in my life, but I have 3 dogs now, so I guess that answers the question.
That's awesome. What is one thing that scares you?
So if we go deep, I'd say ever since I was little, I've had like a fear of death. But as I've gotten older, it's kind of transformed in a positive way, which makes me feel like I am just very cognizant of like living every day because you never know what will happen. So I think I've kind of turned it into like a positive where I'm just very much kind of like in the moment and not thinking too far ahead and just really being grateful for each day that kind of you get to live your life.
Love that. What is one thing you can't live without?
Dogs.
And do you have a motto or a mantra or a quote of inspiration that you live by or that you continue to come back to for inspiration?
Oh, that's a good question. There's not one that I like above all else, but I guess if we go back to kind of the fear, it's kind of more like seize the day. Yeah, I'd say that.
Love that. We're learning a lot about you, Maria, this morning.
Oh my God, goodness.
We even got deep for a minute. I like it. So to close us off here, of course, we've got a lot of women that maybe are watching and people that know you and people that may don't. So I'm curious for anybody that maybe is new to tech, new to startups, what advice would you give to somebody that's just kind of getting involved in tech or startups? Like, what advice would you give them?
I'd say get out there and network. I think it makes a world of difference to not feel alone, to have people you can rely on, ask questions of, just commiserate with on the bad days and celebrate with on the good days. I think obviously, like me being in my role all about community, I think community can kind of make or break an experience. So I would say get out there, even if you're an introvert. There are other introverts you could talk to, or there's different ways you can kind of network in your terms. But I would say it's just so much easier when you have the support system to rely on.
I agree. It's all about the people. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're in a very important role because our community and ecosystem wouldn't be what it was without the people, for sure. So I want to say thank you, Maria, of course, for coming this morning and speaking with us, allowing us to get to know you a little bit better. And of course, Joanna, for being co-host. Couldn't do it without you either. So thank you so much to both of you. And for anybody that's listening and is interested in getting more involved with Tech Hub, again, we have our podcast every other Tuesday morning. And then of course you can go to techhubsouthflorida.org. And there's actually a tab that says get involved, where you can sign up to volunteer, get involved in different events, just get involved with our community overall. So thank you again to both of you, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, have a good
Thank you.
day.
Have a great day.
Bye.